Today I'm with Spencer, who is a family member of Greg OGallager for Kinobody. We met at the RSD World Summit. I'm really excited to have you here, and I really appreciate you organizing an interview with me. It's really cool.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks for having me, Nick. So at World Summit, I approached you totally on the basis of my friend pushing me to network with the king of networking. Like, I saw you and I was a bit sheepish. I was like, there's Nick Co, but I don't know. And my friend was like, no, you're in Vegas, go. And yeah, and that's what brought me to say hi to you. And you were super awesome to meet. You gave me copies of Jeffy's book, which is amazing. Thank you.
I really enjoyed Nine Ball. The story is amazing. It really allows you to understand his background. So I hope really enjoy it.
Yeah, what a tremendous story, really. Yeah, so yeah, indeed, I am the cousin of Greg OGallager, and a lot of the viewers that will see this knows me as the girl who made Feminist Real Shocking Truth About Pickup Artist Seminar. I don't know if you ever got around to watching that finally. I know in Vegas you told me you hadn't seen it.
No, I haven't seen it yet, but I've had, I think it's really cool that you created that.
Yeah, no, that was fun to make. I felt really drawn to do it as a woman with a critical thinking mind and a voice who supports real social dynamics, and I just had to make this video, and it became pretty huge, and that's what's brought me to all these really crazy events over the last year, following Owens stuff and all of that, and finally meeting you, of course.
Well, if you could email that link to Chris or Lisa, or Skype it to me, I can include it in the video description. I'll check it out myself.
Yeah, for sure, will do. Yeah, so actually, I know that I'm here to ask you some questions that might interest me, or maybe some people that might click upon this video, and I'm going to guide it where I want to go. And I was racking my brain with all sorts of things that we could talk about. And what I'm most interested in, because I'm 22 years old and I call myself young and dumb and not really a brand or established yet, not like the way my cousin is or you are. And I guess I like to go back to the beginning, to as early as back when you and Owen had your first bootcamp student, which was the strange man who had the tattoo on his arm. What was the tattoo exactly?
He had a tattoo on his arm. It said, "For a good time, call my mom." And underneath that was his mom's phone number. And he would proudly walk up to girls and say, "Hey, what's up?" And then he'd say, "Hey, check out my tattoo. I got it on MTV." He was kind of under the belief that you had to be famous, rich, or really good looking, or else he would never get girls. So he was so proud that was a symbol of fame, because he was on Pranked and he had to sign a parent or guardian or whoever, if you're in an emergency situation, who you're going to call. So he wrote down his mom and wrote down the phone number.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's pretty horrible.
Oh, God. Okay, well, so having heard this story a few times, which is really funny, by the way, I wonder, how old were both of you and Owen? Approximately how old were you when that situation happened?
We were 23, and I think that he was a little bit older than us. And his name was BJ.
Okay, so I wonder then, how is it, like, when you were 23 and you were dealing with BJ, did you see and anticipate real social dynamics becoming what it is today, and everything that it is today?
Oh no, I mean, we just thought it was a free trip to San Diego, and Owen wanted to go to San Diego. So when he emailed me and said that he wanted to meet up, he read my stories, Owen was with me. And so Owen said, "Hey, tell him that I'm the missing piece to his game and that I must go with you." And so we went down with him. And I was surprised Owen was able to create a really cool training program for 2 weeks. And I was going out there with him and being a wingman to him and BJ. And it was super fun, super memorable.
Yeah,
we wrote
that's amazing.
Really cool stories, and then we shared it. No one believed that we actually existed, because this guy was a huge internet troll. Like, it was pre-Reddit, but if there was a Reddit, he'd be the guy on the front page that everyone makes fun of. Super popular, but it was cool because he was really, really popular. And so when he said that he kissed a girl for the first time and stuff, and he was going out and getting training, no one believed that we existed. They thought we were figments of his imagination. So we told everyone to meet up with us, and then we convinced them otherwise.
So what I find so interesting about hearing more about this anecdote and hearing Owen upselling himself as saying, I'm the missing piece to your game, is going back to a story that I'm a little bit fixated on that Owen has shared with his audience, and I follow him pretty regularly, so I'm up to date on your history together. And this story I love, and I don't know much about, but Owen talks about how you two, as young men, before establishing RSD, you were on a drive between Montreal to Toronto. Montreal's my hometown, and Toronto being Greg's. And he talks about how he was more or less a bit of a coward when thinking about not pursuing his education in the direction that he thought it would go, and instead joining you to create what would become RSD. And he talks about how Nick, you, had been twisting his arm to get him to consider taking this leap with you. So hearing him and hearing that he had been so confident to join you upon teaching BJ, I'm amazed because it sounds like Owen was a bit sheepish to begin with, and it sounds like you were the one who was the mastermind behind everything, which I'd be curious to know a little bit more about, and how it is that you were so confident that this kid, Owen Cook, would become your partner, and the two of you would become the creators of this huge movement that is happening. If you want to shed some light on like how you knew to see that talent and that potential in your relationship with Owen Cook.
Wow, you've definitely done your research. In fact, that whole message that I just told you about, where he said, "Hey, I'm the missing piece of your game," that was actually on that drive from Montreal to Toronto. So what I had done is right before that, I met Owen because he applied to join this private discussion board of pickup artists. And I then organized the first North American Pickup Artists Convention, which was in Montreal. And so we went from, I flew into Toronto, he picked me up and we drove to Montreal. Then after everything was over, he drove back. And at that Montreal convention, yeah, he definitely was a lot more shy. He wasn't doing a lot of approaches. I think he did some approaches. It's just that today, if you see him at the bars and clubs, it's all the time. He's always on.
Yeah.
Back then, he was shy, awkward, dressed kind of like a weirdo. There was a random time where he was just like kicking a parking meter for no reason, and just a totally different guy. Now he's like a spiritual, more wholesome kind of person. And so it's kind of funny to see that, because back then I was more of the approach machine, and now I'm the married guy who doesn't go out, and he goes out every night. It's a totally different dynamic. When we first got into this, Owen really wasn't interested in getting involved with trainings and stuff like that. And so I had to at first push him to get more involved with studying pickup with other people. And then I did that, before I even met him. So before I met him, I was telling him, hey, I want to meet up with all these other pickup gurus and study and learn different kinds of styles of pickup and what have you, because back in the day, there was only one style of pickup, which was you hypnotize people. that didn't really work very well, but it did get us to actually do something as opposed to nothing. So as a result of that, we decided that we were going to meet up with people that were doing other things. Some of them were weird, like tarot cards and magic. Other people were just normal people that were trying to use their personality. And we did every possible kind of thing. I think the cool thing about Owen and I, we were both always very open-minded, because we continually had epiphanies ourselves that it was even possible to even try. I think we had such failures through most of our life with doing cold approach that we thought that any success was so amazing, we would tell the world and continually advocate for it. And it's like that for most guys. The issue for most guys isn't that they don't want to try, it's also they are just really uncalibrated in terms of their communication.
Yeah, and I think I do love that the most about RSD is how it's really not what people who don't take the time to look into what you guys represent and what you teach, you know, a lot of the slack you get is that this is like wrong. I don't even understand it, to be honest. What I see you guys doing is giving some uncalibrated, awkward guys, much like what, let's say, Owen Cook formerly was, or many of the men in the community, a chance to have enough confidence to just try and just celebrate these small successes, like saying hello to a person, something so little that can really change someone's life. And I'm sure that I don't doubt for a second that RSD has changed people's lives like in extremely deep ways, especially given the work you see now from like Julien Blanc's Transformation Mastery and all of that stuff, which is really impressive. And with that being said, I understand that RSD is planning to move into more general self-help. And I wonder, how do you think and how do you anticipate that changing your culture overall and changing the narrative behind your company? How do you see that going?
A lot of the image of pickup was created by us in terms of the marketing, because I always thought it would be really cool to experiment with our brand. So first of all, we were doing more of a risque marketing because we thought that everyone would think that this whole dating world was more like, hey, teach them how to buy flowers and just train nerds. And then I thought, well, we could make it super the opposite, where we're just guys who are, you know, really cool and then hooking up with lots of girls and doing crazy things. And then it turned into like all sorts of bizarre clickbait kind of things. We're combining pranks and comedy with pickup. And then spirituality and self-improvement started coming into the mix, and then fitness, and then how it relates to business. And it's cool to see the evolution. And that's kind of an evolution of our curriculum that kind of just flowed out of our marketing. And I think it's also because when we really got into it and really started focusing on, you know, these kind of like fun experiments, we saw great results in our students for health, fitness. For me, even I had lost 50 pounds this summer, and you know, in terms of business, a lot of the networking skills, even from the people who I work with in my camera crew, will talk about how the pickup skills that you learn even from networking is very, very similar to cold approach. Or from spirituality and self-improvement, the inner game concepts. The concept of even inner game exists has really led to how self-improvement can help you in your relationships in general. So we've been building off of these various brands in a very deep way, these various niches in a very deep way, so that our brand is now more integrated with these various things. I'm excited about that. And the cool thing about it, it actually excites everyone, our students especially, because our students really want this education as well. So yeah, you know, collaborating with Brandon Carter, Greg O'Gallagher for health and fitness, and Elliot Hulse, and then Business Gurus on my YouTube channel has been a really fun and also very valuable learning experience for all of us.
Yeah, totally. I'm excited for it. Definitely the people following RSD are going to be pumped for it, just because it makes it more accessible. When I go to these events in live cities and talk to some of the guys, they're always really excited to talk to a female fan of RSD, of course, because it's a whole different rabbit hole. And I often hear that, well, one, they're so glad to see a woman approving of this. It sort of validates their experience as men in this community, that they feel too shy to outright say that this community helped them develop so many skills that just make them very rounded, functional people in society, let alone, like, approaching a girl who's pretty is one thing, but then taking into account all the things that you guys teach, which are just general skills about how to put yourself out in the world and have a focus and a vision. That's just so amazing. So a lot of guys I know feel slightly like they just can't be outright open. I am this way because I learned from real social dynamics. So I know that as you guys broaden what's going on, it's going to be a load off the shoulders of other young men and women who could just say, like, this company's pretty badass and it puts a lot of value in my life. And that's definitely how I feel as well myself.
Thanks. Yeah.
So it's very cool.
I love that. I think that you're totally right. The biggest challenge we had was that in the beginning, people were so afraid of even being associated with us on our YouTube videos. I mean, back then we didn't have YouTube videos, it was products. And now it's something that people know that they're going to be a part of this, and they're going to put themselves out there. And I could see us getting more and more understanding, because people's attention spans are so short, when we get more into entertainment. So that's why I started the quest of creating music videos, which turned to a quest to create a musical, which turned into a quest to create a movie and a documentary, and turned into a TV series, and all sorts of things that we have as ancillary projects that are working on behind the scenes while still working on operations. And I think that as you see our events become more and more entertaining events as well, I see a future where our events have a lot more entertainment, concerts, parties, things that we show in our lives ourselves, instructors on YouTube videos, but then having students a part of that. So I was talking to Tyler about how you just went to our World Summit in Vegas, and in the future we'll have conferences that will be slightly different, that will potentially have multiple sessions going on at the same time, a lot more people, a lot more entertainment. And I'm really looking forward to things like that also, because it'll be something that people want to do again and again, regardless of whether they're to learn or have a really good time.
Yeah, I don't doubt the potential in that. Vegas was quite a riot. It's amazing. Like I was just thinking, like, how do you and Owen and all of the instructors, especially the people who've been in this for a decade or more, like, how do you feel knowing that you created this and this energy, this vibe? Here you are in Vegas, and you have all these wonderful, action-taking, very positive people around you attending these events. It's such a powerful environment. I know that if I were you and I was in your position, I would feel so much pride and also a humility to be immersed in such a community that you guys pretty much built. Whether you knew you were gonna end up having this, what you do have, the energy you guys have in your space, you built it, and it's so impressive. So I don't doubt that you guys are gonna come up with extremely creative and interesting musical-esque, rapping-esque types of events. And that's also really interesting too. I think myself and some other followers have a hard time wrapping our minds around Nick Coe's vision of the spectacles. And as much as I can't visualize it, I see it being pretty epic, because you RSD people have done a good job at putting out amazing, successful value in the world.
Awesome. I definitely love the paradox you put out there from pride and humility. And I was thinking something along those lines as well. It's mostly appreciation, because I really appreciate everyone coming down, and the positive vibe is definitely really cool. The summit is actually the only event that I attend because it's in Vegas. Other than Vegas Immersion, of course, because it's local. I don't travel much anymore, but I was talking to Owen yesterday. We were at the LA mansion, actually just about 2 hours ago, and I was hanging out with Owen late last night, and we were just talking about how I might organize more, creative mastermind summits and creative new event programs. I think that in terms of the spectacles, entertainment spectacles, you see it even now at some of our free tours where people are crowd surfing, and eventually, you see it on Jeffy's YouTube channel a lot too. I mean, he's created a whole comic book series that turned into a little animated TV episode about the last pickup artist. And then he started rapping on Hamilton songs at karaoke and filming that. And I could see us doing a lot more fun things like that, because so much of what we want to do is be role models of what life is, and it's fun. And that fun is what you have to convey to attract people into your life. And so experimenting new things is something that I really want to advocate, because I feel like the conversational skills that you gain from travel, from engaging with new people, engaging in new activities, and doing things that are outside your comfort zone, expand your world of possibilities. And these are epiphanies that we experience, and as we experience them ourselves, it energizes us to create more of them for other people. I don't think that you're the only one that hasn't seen the full potential of the spectacle. Even Owen doesn't completely see exactly what I see as a vision. And I think that as I push that forward, you'll see a lot more of that. The challenge is that, I was looking at my timesheet. I have this app called Time Doctor. I told Owen, because the business is core, so important, I'm not going to spend time on this unless I'm spending at least 80 hours working in the core business, 40 hours in LA, 40 hours in Vegas. Last week I spent 84 hours working, so that was basically at least 80 hours on the business, and then a little less than 4 hours working on these other projects. So it's very different. It used to be, like 3 months ago, I was focusing on these ancillary projects 100% of my time. And RSD needed me to come back and focus on the business administration, especially the finance and operations, marketing and sales, and in tinkering with the technology to make it so that our team have more resources. Now I'm working on getting an office, getting a new office building out here just for RSD's cool projects and teams, and just actively recruiting people to come down to Vegas. So if you or your friends or supporters want to come down to Vegas and work with me, this is the chance.
Of course, yeah, no, that's obviously an amazing opportunity, and I think most RSD fans want a chance to work with RSD, whatever that entails. Sometimes I think that we don't always understand, when we think of the fantasy of working for RSD, we don't always understand the sleepless nights and the hard hitting hustle. There's the glory that we see of being in the world of real social dynamics and hanging out with the instructors, but then there's also the roots and the structure that's we work very hard in this organization. We don't tolerate bullshit. We hustle, we work hard. So anyways, I know a lot of people that want to work for RSD, and I see some that have a great potential in my eyes, and then I see others where I think, are you ready to not sleep? Are you ready to work hard and break your back over building this amazing vision? It's just questions to ask. But with that being said, I'm actually curious, because Nick, you're behind the scenes, right? So you're dealing with all these logistical things that, to me, I feel like you and I were actually sort of opposites in our personalities. I'm sort of more whimsical. I'm more into that spirituality thing. I'm more into going with the vibe of things. And when it comes to numbers and logic and all of these other things, my brain just shuts down, if you know what I mean. So I wonder, what is your experience being this huge figure behind the growth of real social dynamics, but not many people know who you are, know what you're about. Everyone knows about Owen Cook, Tyler Durden, and all these other people, but they don't totally know about Nick Coe. So if you want to shed some light on what that experience is like, being behind the scenes and not always getting that attention or props or public validation. If you know what I mean.
One thing that we have is Owen's been in YouTube since YouTube's first year in business, and I really wish that I could afford camera gear when I was on tour. I went on a 270 city tour, and I was recording stuff now and then myself on a little pocket camera. I didn't have a cameraman. I really wish I had any of those speeches, available, the recordings of it. It was so good, so much fun. And I would go out every day, 1 to 3 times a day with students in field. I would do seminars 1 to 3 times a day. I would hire people. It was such an amazing adventure. I really wish I had it recorded and I could share it so people could really get to know me. And I've been working now to really put more of myself out there on Snap and IG and especially YouTube. But I think that the real connection happens when you're interacting with people face to face. So that's another reason why I would love to get more involved with live programs again and meet up with people that are at the free tours and similar. I mean, I was the one who innovated the free tour and created it from the very beginning, and that world tour, and also was the thing that saved us during the recession. Yeah. I guess when I really think about RSD, I think about the people, especially the people like the instructors, like Ozzy, who have dedicated themselves for so long to RSD and are helping people out there. People like Jeff, Owen. I think that it's really, really cool to see them stay with us and committed and continue to produce this awesome stuff. And it's all really a passion project. Logically, yeah, I think I'm really organized, and I can totally see the difference because you are also more like Owen, who is also more whimsical and spiritual and not as, say, organized and specific. I mean, I was so organized. I mean, it's pretty difficult to organize a tour like that. So I was so organized that I was booking all my conference venues, my own flights, my own travel, doing sales operations, I wasn't going out though at night very often. It was very rare. It was all purely business.
Wow.
And I guess RSD needed something like that. I mean, most companies need someone like that, and I'm that guy for RSD. And it's also something that it's a rare thing I had just because I was that guy growing up, going through school. Most of my time was spent being the same guy I am now, just organizing things. And I think that's been my greatest and still is my greatest skill set.
Totally. So I'm really curious, what were you like as a kid? Like, what's like 3 characteristics that come to mind in your childhood, just like out of coming to be curiosity?
Well, as a child, growing up, I was somebody who wanted to explore everything. So just to put things in perspective, I'd work summer jobs. I'd volunteer to work for technology companies like HP or Hewlett-Packard, Intel. I'd work for the governor's office, for the legislature. I was involved with both the Democratic and Republican Party. To make the extremity super clear, I was involved with the Black African American Association, student organization, the Asian American Association, the Latin American Association, and I was the only one doing that.
Wow.
So I also was involved with all sports. I mean, I remember my freshman year in high school, I was involved with the football team and soccer team at the same season. I was just trying to do everything at the same time. So I wasn't somebody who was totally in my shell. I think I just laid myself super thin to experiment with everything, and I ended up in a career where I used a wide variety of skills because CEO is kind of like a general manager of sorts. I'm able to use everything for one company as opposed to working for many. So I think that, I guess if I was going to describe that, it would be someone who was very open-minded, really wanting to have a wide variety of experiences. I was very ambitious, working very, very hard. I remember I was reading books on geometry and pre-calculus when I was in elementary school. Just because I thought I wanted to be ahead and faster. I mean, to put it even further, I was I believe so firmly that time was the only difference between success and failure and how fast you evolve in time, so much so that if I was going to a private school, and if I was going to change clothes into a football uniform, I would have an undershirt and I'd have a collar button down, full collar button down, and I would just take it all off at the same time as one t-shirt. Just because I believe that the 1 minute that you would save was valuable time. When I was walking between classes, I'd have my textbook open, reading between classes, also to save time. When my parents were driving me between classes, I'd be reciting speeches for my school presentations. At the same time, I didn't have a lot of friends. I had a very small group of friends. Some of them were close, most of them weren't. I'd have neighbor friends now and then. I was a social person. I think that I also wasn't the most relatable person. I wasn't very calibrated until I was forced to live with other people, like in boarding school. So I was very ambitious. I also, though, was someone who was going to do whatever it took to make things happen. So I guess I was a closer. I was a closer of whatever it took to learn something or get something done. So, for example, my parents didn't always have money, and so they worked hard. They made themselves. They made millions of dollars in their career, but they started from nothing. And when I was growing up, they had a nice house, but they didn't always have a lot of money, so they wouldn't give me a lot of money. I mean, I was going to a very expensive boarding school I was able to attend, and I got a scholarship for it, but I was wearing my grandfather's pass-me-down suit when there was a formal. And,
wow.
That was from like the 50s, so it wasn't the most stylish.
Yeah.
To put things out there though, like if I want to get horse riding lessons or buy a new suit or new clothes, I used skills to create websites when I was 12 to do that. Or if I wanted to learn about inventors or scientists or investment bankers, I would invite them to have lunch with me, and I'd pay for their lunch from the money I earned from internships. I'd always apply for the most challenging things, though, in the expectation that if I do it, somebody will want me. So I would, for example, I applied to work with everyone in the state Senate, in state legislature in California, until one person said yes. I applied to every technology company in town until Intel and Packard Bell said yes. I did the same thing for finance jobs in Wall Street. I applied to every investment bank in town until one person said they would teach me institutional investments.
So having heard all of that and how much action you clearly take, and you have been taking since a very young age, like 12 years old, making websites, it sounds a lot like, I also follow Luke's story quite a bit. Luke, I know, was designing websites at a young age too, and doing all these, again, things I don't relate to at all. But having heard how much you put yourself out there, like, do you, Nick Coe, do you ever deal with self-doubt? Do you ever deal with maybe I'm not good enough? Do you ever deal with these things that I know myself and a lot of other people are afflicted with when it comes to opportunity and networking, or just applying to things? Like, maybe I'm not the person for this. Does that ever, or has it ever been your issue?
Yeah, it's pretty rare that happens. It has happened. I mean,
yeah.
one of the things that happened was I won a charity auction to perform in New York on Broadway in a musical called Chicago. And I went to Chicago beforehand, and I saw all these really buff dudes doing dancing and singing, and I was thinking, wow, I'm the random fat Asian guy who's gonna go on stage, over 200 pounds, ready to go, 5'10". So I decided to lose a lot of weight. Now I'm 150 pounds, 5'10", ready to go. And I've been practicing my dancing and singing skills. So I'll be performing in Chicago on October 26, 2017, and it'll be fun.
Wow.
It'll be a nighttime event with thousands of people actually paying, and I'll be there.
Oh my goodness, are us viewers, or is there any place where we could see this? Will it be recorded, or is it just going to be for the audience?
Well, you could come and film it.
Okay. We'll see. That sounds really cool. Good for you. So given that experience, it was like, maybe I'm not the person for this job because in your case, I'm the fat random Asian guy. But then the way you mitigated that self-doubt was just through taking action and saying, well, no, I could lose some weight. I could feel this. I could work on my dancing skills, my singing skills, whatever it is. So it's again, it's very logic. It's very practical. It's Nick Coe has self-doubt, but then it's like, okay, but here are the steps to destroy that self-doubt and just move forward.
Right. So
that's how you operate, right?
Exactly. I remember that I went to a boarding school where a lot of the children were sons of CEOs and business owners. And I didn't really come from that world at the time. You know, my dad eventually became the president of a very large, successful company. At the time, though, he was a professor. And so I didn't really understand that world. So to overcome my fear, I decided to study economics, and I sucked at it. So I decided then get an undergraduate degree in it.
Okay.
You know, and then go to business school, and then go to another MBA program, and then just face it that way. So if something that I don't really understand or are good at, I just dive in. Same thing with the social communication, graces, public speaking. I decided that if I'm not really the best at it, and I wasn't, I decided that was something that I was going to focus and study on. Same thing why I studied pickup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just a side note, a little tangent. When I was in college, which didn't last long, I was about 17 years old, and I, for some reason, wanted to step out of my comfort zone, and I took an introduction to economics class, which again, not my thing. I don't care. And my teacher was so boring, like just droned on. And I was a little baffled because I thought, no, there's always a way to make things sound interesting, even if the content isn't that interesting. I believe in the possibilities. So I did, and this is so naive and young, and I shouldn't have done this, but I sent my teacher a private message on like where students communicate with teachers. I sent him a link to an RSD Tyler video and made a comment about public speaking and engagement and how even economics could be this interesting. It could be as interesting as the energy that this person, RSD Tyler, has when talking about whatever it is I sent to my teacher. And I saw that the instant message was seen, and he never replied, and I attended class again, and the vibe was very awkward. So it was overall a very, very awkward move to do, but I thought it was funny, and it shows where my head's at when it comes to things like economics and logistics and things that are just practical. I'm thinking about how can we turn this into art.
Are you an artist?
Yeah.
Are you an artist then?
I would say I am. I would say that I am indeed. Something, even if we look at Greg OGallager, and he's my cousin, we share the same last name, we're blood, we're flesh and blood. His family, 5 kids, they're all the children of my Uncle Michael who passed away, and he's the one who also built a business out of nothing and a real estate empire basically, and made millions of dollars, really close to going into the billions. And all of those 5 kids, including Greg, are very business oriented. They see their success on like this very practical ladder of how to get there, and it's so impressive. And then we meet up and join our family together, and we have this contrast of here are the business kids with these very practical goals in mind, and then here me and my siblings, and we're a lot more I guess like your business partner Owen, a lot more just kind of like seeing the art and possibility of sharing with the world, and maybe not in a way that is as financially lucrative, which is definitely, I know my weakness as an individual is going forward. I'm trying to build a brand on YouTube, but I have a hard time thinking about where it could be financially successful one day and where it could give back to me, because all I see is giving to others, and that's all that appeals to me. And I don't like the idea of asking people to buy a product or a program. And that's definitely my sticking point. That's where I say I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy for this, if you know what I mean. So yeah. Selling, basically.
Sure, I definitely could feel you on that. I think the biggest thing for us that made it super easy was that we started off just giving tons and tons and tons of free value, and we're still there today. I mean, most of our money comes from giving, and then people just give us stuff back. And you can't say no if it'd be rude to not say no, say no to when someone's giving you a gift. And in the same way as what it is for us. I mean, so we started off doing tons of free seminars. We would do them at Starbucks, and then we were like, hey, if someone wants to, reimburse our travel costs, probably be about $600. If one of you guys wants to show up, that'd be cool. It's just that a dozen people would volunteer to do it. So, and when you're like, oh, we don't want to refuse all these guys. So that's how we started. And that was our first paid program after that BJ program. And I think that even today with all the free videos and free live events, it's still focused first on giving, because when you just give so much, eventually you're at the point where you're like, hey, I'd love to have someone contribute back to what I'm contributing to this community. And so I think if you establish your brand and you have a community that you create online and eventually goes offline as well, you'll just add so much value to that community that other people will just be forced to give back. I mean, that's how religions grew.
Yeah, I definitely feel myself. I'm a very, very, very little brand, very, very little name out there. But I also definitely see myself emulating the people and the companies that I do look up to, and definitely the way you guys do it, because I want to give. And you just reminded me that I have received, I made a friend who invited me to the Chicago hot seat that Owen would have had a few months ago. And he basically saw my video, loved it, and said, hey, if you want to come to the Chicago event, like, I'll host you, no problem, no need to pay, none of that. And I went for it, and I had an amazing time. So it makes me think that this whole exchange, this community exchange can be so powerful, and there's so much potential in it. It's that kind of trade-off is a lot more appealing than dollar bills. But it is something that I'm really looking forward to in building things. And I love the audience I have so far. I love the conversations on YouTube videos and things like that. So I appreciate everything RSD has put out as free content. And that's actually what had me go to my first paid event a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, was I thought, I've been watching these RSD videos for basically 6 years, I have. And it's given me so much value. And even though everything I feel I could need, I've gotten from free videos themselves, I think it's about time I go and just step into this community in the flesh and pay my little dollars to say thank you, even though it's pennies in comparison to everything. But it's like, I want to say thank you to everyone, and I want to say thank you to RSD Tyler in real life. And it ended up being a mind-blowing event on top of that, which is why I had to also make the video to do an extra little thank you, of course.
Well, yeah, I'd love to have you keep coming and seeing how we grow. You know, you have that lifetime access. Yeah, maybe you could come down to the mansion sometime, and we're celebrating my birthday party in 2 weeks too. So you and Greg are both invited.
Awesome, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I can pull together in 2 weeks, but I love the way RSD has opened their doors to me and my pals and this overall tribe that is happening that you guys have created. It's so amazing to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So are you a cat person or a dog person?
I'm a dog person. I think you hear my dogs barking in the background.
I got this guy right here. This is Jack Bauer.
I like its blue eyes, much like my own. Very cute.
Yes. He's been rubbing himself against my legs the entire interview.
Oh. That's cool, man. No, I'm definitely a dog person, though, I have to say. I'm very, very passionately a dog person, but that's also because of cat allergies.
Oh, okay. I got to go feed this guy. He wants some treats. So I'm going to...
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming down and doing this interview, and definitely stay in touch and let me know about your YouTube channel and send me a link. And I'll let everyone know that they should check you out also. You have a great energy, and I really appreciate your support.
Will do. Thank you. I look forward to a part 2 to this interview because I'm sure that will come.
Sure. Anytime.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick.
Cool. Cheers. Why don't we do a shout out of your YouTube? So what is your actual YouTube?
I've put it under my name, Spencer OGallager. SpencerOGallager. It used to be under another name, but I attended an RSD event where Michael Sartain spoke, and he said, cut out the BS with having a name, like a esoteric name that isn't your own. Just go by your name. And as painful as it was, I put my ego and my pride aside, and I said, fine, Michael Sartain, I will go by my name, Spencer OGallager. That's my Instagram and my YouTube.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
We'll all check it out.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Spencer.
Thanks, Nick.
Cheers.